How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a major key on how to get everything you want in life. So I know that sounds really grandiose or really, high aiming, but I believe that this is true. And this is a concept that I have been in touch with at certain parts of my life, but then been out of touch with, okay? So here's what it is, okay? This is very real, very powerful, very magical, and I encourage you to really work with this through trial and error, and really give this a try, really give this a thought, really reflect on this, okay? Because I feel like this is the major key that basically makes everything fall into place versus makes everything fall into shambles and crumble, okay? And really all it is are you taking action from a place of abundance, or are you taking action from a place of scarcity? Are you taking action from a place of I have this, or this, or this is going to happen for me? From confidence, from assurance, from abundance, or are you taking action from a place of lack? Okay, lack versus the having of. So let me explain. Okay, this is very powerful, and you could see this in other people's relationships and situations, and you can see this in your own as well. And it requires that you take ultimate responsibility for the circumstances in your life, which most people are not willing to do. All right, so I've seen a lot of people who get into relationships extremely fast, and every time they break up with their partner, even if they have a really bad falling out or a really bad breakup, and they say that they're never going to fall in love again, they get into another relationship really fast, or they go through a really long dry spell of misery. But anyway, I've noticed the people that have trouble feeling appreciation during the single life, feeling abundantly happy in their single life, have a reoccurring theme of getting into problematic relationships over and over again. The scarcity of a partner causes them to act desperately to obtain a partner that they actually do not want, to obtain a relationship that they do not want, and thus they fall into a repeating cycle of I feel alone, I don't have, company and companionship and love in my life. So I need all that. And so instead of working to cultivate feelings of love and appreciation inside their own being, they strive to obtain that in the external world by getting with whatever relationship seems good enough. And then it turns out to be not what they wanted. It's not just neutral, right? So if you're just lonely and you're bored, I would say that's probably better than being in a bad relationship where you're not bored, but you're inside of these extremely negative suffering and emotions of, a partner that's dysfunctional, or a relationship that's dysfunctional, or an unhealthy relationship. So anyway, with this example, I'm sure a lot of you know plenty of people and examples, and you might be one of them. I know I've had some bad relationships that came out of it when I was younger until I recognized the problem, where the feeling of taking action from a place of scarcity to overcome the scarcity actually creates more scarcity. You feel alone, so you try to get into a relationship to cure the loneliness, and then you only feel more alone, and you only feel more hurt, and you only feel more unworthy, right? A lot of people, they feel unworthy, and they try to get into a relationship to make them feel worthy, or they feel ugly, and so they get into a relationship to make them feel attractive, or whatever it might be. And the more that you focus on the more you focus on life from a place of lack, the more lack you receive. And so literally the universe is going to bring you a reflection of whatever it is you're feeling. And so you can take all the action you want, but if it's coming from a place of scarcity or lack, you're only going to find more evidence for that scarcity or lack. And this just sounds like a bunch of woo-woo magical thinking. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have success, they don't think about this because they're like, there's no way that my feeling state could have been the major driving factor behind my success. It had to have been all the action I took and this and that. And while, yeah, the action is absolutely necessary, the emotion that you felt and the thoughts that you thought and the beliefs that you had that were in the background driving that action, it determines the results that the action is going to bring to you. And so let me give you another, and this is why people take action to get a relationship from a place of scarcity. You know, they're always in that problem. And the same thing goes with money. And this is why, you know, females are attracted to confidence and, you know, anyway, I don't want to get too deep in that. So let's talk about money. Money is something that people want to hear more about than relationships, or maybe that's just me. I'm not interested in listening to law of attraction videos and stuff about manifesting relationships because I know that when I am in alignment, you know, whatever the hell you think that means, relationships come when everything else is coming too. I know what the state feels like, and it's called this is what Abraham Hicks calls the vortex. I think it's very important to really read her books and think about these things. Because I found this to really work in my life. And there's a reason, like I always tell people, like I've been talking on my channel about why you shouldn't watch law of attraction videos, but lately it's been it's been too apparent and obvious to me of its actual application and benefits in life that I can't just not make these videos with what I'm learning. So fuck it, I'm just going to make these videos and see what happens. Anyway, so money. The thing that everybody wants, but most people don't feel like they have enough of. So here's the interesting thing, okay? I don't want to give too specifics about these people, but please take my word for it. Trust me and rest assured that these are real people that I've observed that are very close to me. Let's just say I've had quite a few direct family members, like really, really close family members I've lived with all my life. One of which actually built a business on their own that had a net worth of over $1 million at a certain point. And I have many other really good friends of mine, but also family members who built other forms of financial success and career success and educational success. And I've seen the emotional states that they were in when they created it. And I've seen one person who went to $1 million net worth and then ended up completely bankrupt at a certain point and needing to get a regular 9-to-5 job that wasn't even giving them 25% of what they were making before. And then I've seen them build it back up and run someone else's business where now they're making, you know, $500,000 a year, which isn't the $1 million. Well, $1 million net worth in a business isn't the same as an individual person's gross income, but I've seen them go bankrupt after the $1 million net worth and be making $15 an hour for a while after the bankruptcy, which was tough for them, moved into an apartment, all sorts of crazy stuff, and then slowly built themselves back up and then ran someone else's business, and they were making $500,000 in gross income running someone else's business as a COO of the company. And then, but just always feeling miserable when they were doing it to the point where it wasn't even worth it to them anymore. Like they were making more than enough money to sustain them and constantly donating to poor people and anyone who they think needs money, they were donating to, I noticed. Because they knew that they could and they felt very fortunate to have that. And that's how much money they were making, is they could help people out no matter what. The thing is, though, they were suffering the whole time. They were suffering because they're running someone else's business now, the COO of the company, and sure, they're making a shit ton of money, way more than enough than they'll ever need. They're financially comfortable, but the amount of time that they were spending doing what they hate, replying back to emails of inventory and and like imported items. And then if a retail store didn't like the items, or it was damaged or whatever, they had to deal with all that stress. I mean, it was a retail business. Really happened. And I just remember they had no time to spend with family, no time to spend with friends, no time to even eat. And it was ruining their health. It was ruining every other aspect of their life, okay? And so I'm not saying that money is evil, okay? Because when they were making that $1 million net worth before in their own business, they were perfectly happy and had all the financial freedom in the world because they had employees to help them out. But what I'm saying is money is not, so first of all, money is not what you actually want. Everyone thinks they want a bunch of money. What you really want is to be financially comfortable enough to support the rest of your lifestyle and have enough money to kind of spend on the side on whatever it is that you want. You don't have to suffer necessarily to get that, but the suffering itself isn't necessarily productive. But anyway, that's not sustainable. This is a thing people need to realize. That grind culture, hustle culture, where you're just like grinding 9 to 5, or not 9 to 5, you're grinding all fucking day, unless it's temporary to get the business up on its feet. If that's what you have to do to sustain that amount of money, is give up your entire life and your health and your sanity for it, it's not sustainable, and at a certain point you're going to crack. So anyway, this person eventually cracked. And it's good that they did, because it was killing them. It wasn't worth it. At least that was exactly their words. But then they try to rebuild the old fortune that they had before. They try to rebuild, and I wouldn't call it a fortune, but the $1 million net worth business again, because they know that they enjoy that more, and they're more passionate about that, and they're more in direct control, because they're running the other person's business for them, even though they're not the CEO. That was their duty for whatever reason. So they're like, well, why don't I just run my own business again? So that's what they did. The problem is now it's not as easy, they're finding, to run their own business and make the money that they were making before. And so anyway, I noticed a dramatic difference in their feeling state, okay? So when they made the business before, they had someone else to support them and whatnot to help them make their business grow. They weren't in a state of desperate scarcity. But whatever the case, their mindset was different. Their energetic state was different. And it started out as a passion project that eventually grew into abundance. And they weren't even expecting to make a business at first. It just happened naturally due to circumstances that the universe threw at them. And eventually, when they found out they could make a living with it, the path unfolded naturally to abundance and created that $1 million net worth business. The problem is eventually they got attached to that $1 million net worth business, and when things around them started to change, like the way the world worked and stuff like that, their money also crumbled with it. And instead of going with the flow of the universe and continuing to operate from a state of scarcity or trust or abundance, they were so attached to that original success that it turned to scarcity, it turned to disparity, it turned to, oh my God, like I gotta save my business is dying, and it went from a balance of, abundance at an all-time high to all of a sudden neutral, and then, oh shit, everything's fucked, it's chaos, I gotta save my business, and then bankrupt. And then they hit rock bottom, and then detachment happened. Okay, when a lot of people will say this, when they hit rock bottom, they're just like, oh, whatever, I give up. And it's in that place that abundance starts to come back to them. But then you start to get attached to that abundance or attached to that success or whatever it is. And then it leaves you again. And so anyway, what I'm trying to get at is, and we're going to talk about health too and how this relates to health. When you take action from a place of passion, inspiration, determination, when you're more lighthearted about it, when you can be more lighthearted about it, you attract more of that feeling state, of that vibration. a lot of people think that they want the money. And so and it's like, obviously you need it, and you should strive to obtain the amount of money that you need to survive. I'm not, obviously, but you have to recognize that just because you're taking action, maybe you might get what you want. A lot of people will. But the outcome itself isn't always what you want. Like the manifestation and physical reality is not exactly what you want. Like the money is not what you want. The relationship is not what you want. Okay, it's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't focus so much on the finger or you'll miss all the moon's heavenly glory. That's a quote by Bruce Lee. Another quote to demonstrate this is, the meal is not the menu. Okay? And so you're not looking for the successful business or the money or the perfect girlfriend or the relationship. You're looking for the vibrational essence of what all of that's, of what you expect all of that to bring you. Okay? And so one more thing that we're going to kind of talk about is health. I should have started with health because I think that that's what most people who watch my channel would really be interested in anyway. And I've talked to so many people who are open to the law of attraction that are dealing with health problems, but then they don't really get the health problem. They don't really get their health problems taken care of. And by the way, I don't like saying this because it's controversial, but there's a saying out there that says, that a lot of people mention. A lot of people say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And you could make all the arguments you want about that. But there's another quote that says the hungry don't get fed. Okay? And basically, it's very likely that the reason why the hungry don't get fed is there's a gaping hole inside them that maybe people are giving them food. They're giving them the physical manifestation, but they have a spiritual hole of disparity and hopelessness and poverty feelings, poverty vibrations, poverty mindset, that no matter how much money people give them, how much food people give them, because you see this all the time with people who are always out on the street corner asking for money, the money and all this other stuff that these people are giving them to try to get them back on their feet doesn't solve the underlying vibrational issue or whatever the issue actually is, if it's psychological, whatever. And I've actually seen this too. And over and over again, I've had a family member who was always giving their people in need help. Like we had people come to the house and live with us and all sorts of stuff, and getting money and all this stuff. But they never improved. They never made any even like sign of improvement. In fact, a lot of them stabbed you in the back. They stole or they did some crazy stuff. They started smoking crack or whatever. I mean, if you're going to help someone out, you should at least expect some kind of real improvement, or they're stepping in the direction that you want them to go towards success or whatever, to get back on their feet. But I'm sure a lot of you have seen that where, you've given someone everything, someone in need, someone who's poor or just needs a little bit of support to get the ball rolling towards success. And you give them everything to try to help them out, but they just take it all for granted. They don't really make any real progress. And then eventually you have to kick them out of your house, or eventually you have to stop giving them money or whatever it might be. And they leave worse than they came, or they leave without making any real progress. Again, the hungry don't get fed. Okay? It's not so much the material objects that you're giving these people. It's something inside them that needs to transform. Okay? And that's really the essence of what I'm talking about in this video. It's not even like, even if it's not a magical vibrational thing, it's a real phenomenon that you could observe in people. And the people that do change, the people that do start to get the ball rolling and make real progress with your help, it's not because you gave them help that made them make progress. It's because something inside them changed. And so I've had people in my life, let's say relationships, where I didn't want a relationship, and I don't want to get into it, but I was not a committed relationship guy. And I legitimately felt like I could have any girl that I wanted, right? Anyway, this girl walked in my life that really was determined to stay there and show me the value of love in a relationship and her commitment and things like that. And it transformed me, and it changed the way I see relationships forever. And I'm never going to forget that. And next thing you know, something inside me changed and transformed. And now I completely different in regards to how I approach relationships and intimacy and stuff like that. And that wasn't really an abundance versus scarcity thing. That was a change in value systems. But anyway, you could have all the committed relationships you want and this and that, but it's not going to really help your results and how you feel about it unless something inside of you changes. So most people, they focus on material change. They focus on this supplement that I could take, this self-help book, this technique, this way of manipulating the external world, manipulating people, like, these books like Robert Greene and shit like that. But in reality, if you focus on the root cause of your suffering and the root cause of why you can't just naturally get the things you want, then everything else changes, and it's so much easier than you ever could have imagined. All right, so let's talk about health. Health is very important in regards to this concept. Again, it's very observable, okay? So for me, this is actually the big inner shift that helped me, okay? So most of y'all have been following me for a while know that I used to have psoriasis. I had panic disorder. From 2012 to 2014, I had extremely bad panic attacks and panic disorder. And the more that I focused on the anxiety and panic, the more that the anxiety and panic would happen, actually. And like it seemed like the more I tried to fix my psoriasis and my health problems, the worse and worse they got over time. And I just remember I tried every single type of supplement, soap, anything and everything. I did different books, different diets. I've literally tried every diet. I did detoxes and everything. And I was so focused on the symptoms, so focused on, really I was feeling like I was dying, and I was thinking the worst thoughts ever. Like I might have a parasite, I might have cancer, I might have like Epstein-Barr virus, these people like Medical Medium who fearmonger, and they're like, the freaking scientists, they modified the eggs, and it's a giant conspiracy, and they're against you, and doctors don't want you to know, and all these like extremely toxic and detrimental ideas, right? I was heavily involved in them when I first started this, which is why I'm so vocally opposed to these people now. The thing is, I was so focused on my lack of health, I was continuing to manifest a lack of health. And interestingly, I was manifesting a lack of money too, because I was spending hundreds of dollars a month, at a certain point at thousands of dollars, on different health supplements and things. And whenever I got money, I didn't focus on buying healthy, nourishing food. I wasn't focused on any life goals. I was going to the gym and a little bit of music here and there and stuff like that. But I wasn't doing anything to worry about to try to build my relationship life, my friendship life. In fact, I stopped dating and I stopped hanging out with friends at a certain point because I had such bad anxiety and other things. I was so focused on my suffering that the suffering continued to grow more and more. Okay? And so I've mentioned techniques that I use to overcome anxiety. It was really just allowing the anxiety and getting rid of the resistance. Stop resisting anxiety and it goes away, because that's what anxiety really is. It's like this I'm so scared of this thing in the future that might happen. I don't want it to happen to me. So I'm going to try really hard not, to resist it and try to prevent it from happening. It's a prevention of a threat. That's what, it's your effort towards trying to prevent something in the future from happening that you view as a threat. Like, I might make this mistake when I walk in this room. This person might judge me and I don't want that. I might say the wrong thing. I might do the wrong thing or whatever. I'm afraid of heights. I might fall and die. I might be late to work, or if I am late to work, I get this anxiety. You might lose your job. You're scared of what your boss might say. It's the anticipation of something negative happening in the future that you view as a threat, and it's the feeling of resisting that future thing that really is the anxiety. That's what anxiety really is. And people break it down in all these other logical steps that don't help them. But anyway, what I was getting at is when I stopped focusing, and I used to search up things like how to heal anxiety, how to cure anxiety, the best methods for dealing with panic attacks. And I was so focused on my suffering and how to deal with the suffering that I never got anywhere towards health or ease. What I eventually realized is health. So I started to get into Chinese medicine and herbalism, and I started to get into these concepts like Taoism and detachment. And I started to realize, because I was reading Law of Attraction shit back then, but I didn't understand what it really was. I thought if I just pretended to be happy or pretended to be, and use affirmations, I'd be okay. But the thing I never focused on was my feeling state of lack versus abundance. So eventually, what really changed inside me energetically to start manifesting health is I stopped focusing on how to heal anxiety, how to overcome anxiety, and I stopped focusing on what causes psoriasis and how to heal psoriasis. And instead, I started to focus on how to feel healthy. Chinese medicine is all about building health. It's about using tonic herbs and diet to strengthen your body, to enhance your energy. It's what you think medicine really is. Doing things to help you feel good. It's about fortification of health. It's about cultivating health and wellness. But when people feel a lack of health, they go to the doctor. Like, oh my God, I have this crazy symptom, or I feel this pain, or whatever. What's going on? And they have this disparity and this like attachment to the outcome. And the doctor will give you a drug or a surgery or diagnose you, or they won't give you anything. And people hate it when doctors tell them, oh no, you're just healthy. It's all in your head. Because then they're like, what? No, there's something wrong with me. I know there is. I got to go find another practitioner. And it's like you spend all this money and you have all this anxiety and all this time. And it gets worse and worse, and it's like going to a practitioner who tells you you're healthy and fine and nothing's wrong with you. It doesn't ease your symptoms, and it doesn't ease your mind, and it just fuels and makes that anxiety grow. And so anyway, it doesn't sound like a difference, right? People will be like, oh, what's the difference between focusing on healing your symptoms and focusing on cultivating health? Well, the search results in Google that you get from how to heal anxiety is very different from how to feel at ease or how to feel at peace or how to feel present to the moment. If you notice, one of the number one most effective methods that people mention for overcoming anxiety is meditation, developing presence to the moment, reading books like Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now. People don't say, oh, this breathing technique. Like you'll hear some people say the breathing technique. But really, breathing is to calm the body. And anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that. The point is, I stopped looking at things from a point of resisting the illness, and I started looking at things as allowing the health. It really is Abraham Hicks' philosophy. And for years, I just was, resistant to that. I'm like, no, fuck the law. Let's get practical, and we got to get logical, and we got to get philosophical, and we got to break everything down scientifically. But the last year, I've realized the science world doesn't even actually understand facts, and I have the scientific understanding to be able to interpret that. Most people are just like, oh, facts are bullshit, blah, 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 but they don't actually understand science. They're just saying that because they want to believe that science isn't relevant. But I actually, unfortunately, have to accept the fact that science can't prove facts either. Giant meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials about what's the healthiest diet with a tiny absolute risk reduction in different groups doesn't really tell you jack fucking shit. The magnitude of effect of most of these studies, and the fact that they're correlation studies and statistically underpowered. Anyway, so the feeling state of abundance, and that it started to manifest actual health to me. The feeling state of cultivating health instead of resisting sickness. Here's what I did. And there was a transition period where the universe is bringing me contrast to eventually get me towards what I need. And this is the thing people mess up on. The universe will bring them negative experiences to guide them in towards the positive result they want, but they see a negative experience and react to it, and then it consumes them and throws them off course. So here's what I did. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go vegetarian. I'm going to go vegan. I'm going to eat mostly like, these esoteric forms of grains and rice, like black rice, purple rice, whatever. I'm going to take all these like tonic herbs and stuff, and, I'm going to live like a monk. I just started doing meditation. I started to do detachment exercises. I started studying the ego and why attaching yourself to dogma is actually a root of all suffering. During that time, my mantra was attachment is the root of all suffering. Because I was seeing it in everyone else, and I was seeing it in myself. And the more that I let go, the more things started to come to me. I've talked before about how when I started to just wear a bunch of baggy clothes and stop showering, I know that sounds disgusting, but whatever, it's a phase in my life. Back in 2014, how all of a sudden all these girls started coming to me. Even though I had psoriasis and I used to be super anxious about it, and these girls started to come to me and they would give me solutions to my balding at the time. They would buy me fancy shampoo and stuff. They would bathe me, they would groom me, and they would try to help me out. And it was weird because before then I was super anxious about my appearance, and I was hyper fixating on what people thought of me. But then when I just stopped caring, I started wearing whatever clothes I wanted, started acting how I wanted, I just stopped caring. People that were there all along started to light up and be in alignment with the things that I wanted, be in alignment with the abundance of me rather than the scarcity of me. And it was weird. The less I cared, the more positive attention I got from girls. And this is not your average, like, dating advice video where like, oh, just stop caring. It's like it was a magical thing. I literally wasn't showering for a period of time. And I had a lot of hair back then, just so everyone knows. And I wasn't shampooing my hair. I smelled like apple cider vinegar because I was trying to regrow it with apple cider vinegar. Anyway, a bunch of girls started coming into my life, and they started to buy me a bunch of stuff to, all my supplements and my foods and stuff. They turned vegan with me, whatever. I know that sounds either, I don't know, narcissistic or whatever, but it's like I was detached. I didn't care whether I had a girlfriend or not. They were the ones who were coming to me and giving me all this stuff. So I'm just saying, and there were several of them during that time. There were 4 or 5. There were 5, actually. And one of them turned out to be a long-term relationship. But anyway, where was I going with this? So that started to come, and then I was vegan, right? So my anxiety went away with the detachment, with my anxiety went away with the allowance and the presence techniques and meditation and the holy basil and ashwagandha and all those things I was taking during that time, and the gynostemma. But my digestive problems got worse during that time, which is very interesting. I was really into Michael Greger and all the veganism and stuff. And yeah, I did raw veganism for a while. But anyway, by just focusing on cultivating health and eating the diet that I thought was the healthiest, I was like, yeah, I'm eating this black rice and this purple rice because it's giving my body minerals and building my Jing, and I'm building my health, and I'm building my longevity. I wasn't scared of dying anymore because I saw age as something that I can actively extend by the diet that I was eating and the tonic herbs I was taking. And I saw my disease as something that was happening to me because I wasn't healthy. So I started trying to build my gut and all this stuff. Interestingly, the opposite thing happened that guided me in the right direction. By focusing on trying to be healthy and following the vegan diet, because I thought it was the healthiest thing, by focusing on trying to cultivate health, I started to see evidence that the grains I was eating was actually disturbing my gut, my gut, and because I had irritable bowel syndrome through all that time too, and when I cut out the foods that I was seeing out the other end of the toilet, and I identified the foods that were triggering my irritable bowel syndrome, mostly whole grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, which was everything I thought was healthy during that time, when I removed all that and I let go of the vegan dogma and I allowed myself to try paleo, because I was resonating with paleo at the time. I'm like, oh, this SCAPS diet looks like it might help me. All of a sudden, not only did my IBS go away, but so did my psoriasis. Okay? And so it's this unfolding that happens when you focus on abundance rather than the lack. Okay? So instead of focusing on resisting the illness and solving the illness, I started to focus on cultivating the attribute that I really, really want. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel happy. I want to feel vibrant. That was what I was focusing on at that time. I wasn't focusing on, oh my God, I'm sick. I really got to remove the psoriasis. How am I going to date a girl when I have psoriasis on my skin? She's going to hate me. When I let go of those vibrations, everything that I wanted naturally fucking came in the most weird fucking ways. Weirdest ways. The girls that came into my life, I don't want to go into detail, but some of them, they should not have started becoming intimate with me. But they did. Dumped their boyfriend, their long-term boyfriend for me, and all sorts of weird shit. Started showing up in the middle of the night while they were drunk. Because we both share the same birthday. I don't want to get into that. Just weird shit. This is why the universe works in mysterious ways. God works in mysterious ways. There is no coincidences. The bridge of incidences is what it really was. So there's a reason why all these phrases exist and why the Bible and all that shit really exists, because it actually was telling some principles of how to use the law of attraction is what I think. So anyway, people are going to think I'm a quack because I'm like, I might seem like I'm abandoning science, but I'm not. The fact is, this is what has been a major kind of guiding tool towards what I want in my life. And I might as well talk about it because I'm resonating with it. So it's not so much the action you take, it's where is that action coming from, right? And another thing is like, if you're having so with health, if you focus on resisting the illness, you can develop hypochondria. You can make that illness worse and worse and worse. You could end up investing a bunch of money, and then not only do you lack health, but now you lack a bunch of money. You think about things like certain treatments and things that just are burning a hole in money, and you don't really see any improvements in your symptoms. Lots of times you get even worse over time. So it's like, focusing on resisting illness only gets me more illness. So why don't I focus on health and give that a try? Whatever. That's what I found to work, and I think most people will as well. And it's like the more I focused on what I wanted in my health goals, the more health came to me. Like when I discovered carnivore back in 2018, I had already solved all my health problems and shit by that point, except for a couple actually, like insomnia and shit like that. And carnivore helped me with that. But what I was really attracted to is since I cured all my illnesses, I was focused on performance goals. I was like, I want to have nice abs, and I want to be a beast like Sean Baker. I want to be like Sean Baker. I want to be like all these carnivore and keto people who look like superhumans. And they talk about endurance and mental clarity. I'm like, man, that sounds cool. And eating nothing but meat seems so freeing and simple, right? And it just gave me this image of robustness, right? That veganism was the complete opposite of. And you look at all those vegan people, not really the most robust people in my opinion. Anyway, it was the inspiration that guided me towards that. It was a desire for performance goals and a vision I had. And so then when I started to focus on that, and when I started to do carnivore and followed that inspiration, which everything I knew about nutrition was in opposition to it. You need vitamin C, you need fiber, and all this other stuff. And next thing you know, I felt fucking amazing, right? Because I was focusing on the robustness that I saw. I was like, all these people, they have the superhuman health and all this other stuff. That diet's like a giant performance enhancer. And so I did that because of the feeling of health I was trying to build. And next thing you know, I got that feeling of health. And these days, now that I understand the science of what makes people healthy, hormesis, doing things that are a challenge and stress the system a little bit, builds resilience and strengthen the system. Immune support, herd immunity and hormesis and cultivating the immune system by taking some of these like xenohormetic herbs and things like that. Taking some, like polyphenol compounds that kind of damage your immune system a little bit, and the body gets better and better at strengthening that detoxification pathway. That's how polyphenols supposedly work, through hormesis and the NRF2 pathway. Things like exercise, things like sunlight and hot-cold hydrotherapy and all these things. It's that feeling of robustness. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep into specifics, but hopefully this video helped. This is kind of what I've thought about, and I'll talk to you all next time.